Got it.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second part of the conversation. So, we are continuing this conversation with one of the most amazing filmmakers, Amol Gupte. And welcome back, sir. Welcome to this day two of our conversation
Yeah, but I've still worn the same t-shirt
for continuity.
for continuity. I thought if it is seamless for you, then it would be better to wear the same t-shirt and
Yeah,
make it
I
feel
have
like
this
it's the same
magician
day.
in my city. There's a big magician called OP Sharma. So, Jadoo se I changed my kurta. So, it helps with the continuity thing.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
ask my AD to edit it like that.
Yes.
So we were talking about your film that you made on children. Could you talk about that?
This is not actually a film. It is a guhar. It's a plea. It's a request to the world to please understand children and include them. Exclusion is not a very good thing. When Partho, our 2.5-year-old son, then, when he stepped out in 2004, uh, and we went along with him, and he was the first one to step out of our house, as I said earlier. We all were together for 2.5 years, so he did not have any pangs or missing or any agony of missing a parent out of his, parent out of sight is quite agonizing at that age. So we took him to a beautiful heaven called Besant Montessori School, which was in the name of Annie Besant, and it was Maria Montessori's teachings that were being followed. And this was in 1947, this school opened. The school continued to stay in the same premise, which was a cute bungalow in Juhu, uh, facing the Juhu beach. Not facing really, but accessible to Juhu beach with a 2-minute walk. Now, this place does not have what you call a school gate. It has a small wicket gate like a bungalow gate. It has a wall which is barely 1.5 feet, and it has a lot of places to play within that bungalow space. So when our son sat there for the first time and we sat with him in what was called the environment section of the school. So there was the hall, there was the environment, and there was the shed. So this is the Montessori method where two age children like nursery and junior KG are in the same space. So there's peer learning too, there's sharing and empathy. And then they go to the senior KG, which is prep, and then they go to first standard. So it's a 7-year course which the child goes through in this school, from group one, group two, prep, first, second, third, fourth, and now they've added fifth to the school. But the fun is that till the fourth standard, when Partho was there, the school was only from 9 a.m. to 1 in the afternoon, just 4 hours. And yet, magically, the school managed to complete its curriculum 2 months in advance. How was this possible? Because the classroom had only 15 to 16 children. And the teacher and the student ratio was favoring the children, which means they had 4 or 5 teachers for these 15 children. There was a certain intimacy which was established, like how a family is intimate. And no teacher was called Miss or Sir. In fact, most of them were women teachers, they're called aunties. So Auntie Bulbul, Auntie Dolly. Auntie Dolly Dolly Wadia was the chief trustee and the chairperson of the school. She ran the school. She passed away a couple of years ago at a grand age of 90. But she held that Montessori wisdom of inclusion in its biggest form. How? Like in the same group of 15 or 16 children, you will have a child with a Down syndrome, or who's on the spectrum, or with a physical disability like cerebral palsy. and nobody is separated from the peer. So what happens is, while peer learning happens, peer empathy also happens. So it's almost like having a brother or a sister in difficulty who you rally for. So that empathy is what I look for when I talk about pure inclusion. So my beacon light, or the person of wisdom, uh, in the true sense, is Dolly Auntie. That is Auntie Dolly Wadia. Uh, she's like a mother to me. She's passed, but she lives with me in spirit. And Medha Lotlikar, who's an educationist of fine value. She's a MEd in a B.Ed in both uh, general education and special education. So she has a view of inclusion in her mind. She used to run these two schools for the challenged, Tulips and Saraswati Mandir, from where my Taare Zameen Par journey began. And she always maintained and maintains to date that we should be shutting all special schools, because in the truly inclusive society, all children are together. Because the job of the teacher is not to judge. The judge sits in the courthouse and judges. The teacher is in the school, and the job is to teach, relentlessly teach, and not judge how much has the child absorbed. The child will absorb at his or her own speed. Your job is not to point out, okay, this is a rotten apple, because it's not a rotten apple. The rot is in your own head, which is why you're judging so harshly children. So, having understood the value of children, I wanted to just key make a keynote out of it, which is why Milestone, the film. It's a small 5 minute exercise, but it kind of speaks from the child's heart and the child's mind. The voiceover, though I have done the voiceover as a voice, but it's the voice of children. And this is way back in 2004. So from 2004, 2 years into research of Taare Zameen Par, sitting with children at Tulips Saraswati Mandir, with children with dyslexia at the Maharashtra Dyslexia Association, and Kate Karawala is the other grand uh, educator who I absorbed from. Having said that, when I was watching, there were hundreds of Ishan emerging. You know, your parents have just named you Ishan, but that ability of Ishan, which of course undoubtedly you possess, uh, of thinking outside the box, is what was to be discovered and presented as a case to the adults of the nation from children who have no voting rights, which is why Taare Zameen Par. And Milestone is a like a forerunner of the same idea, because it speaks from the child's mind and the child's heart. I think Milestone managed to tick the boxes in the correct fashion in order to build a case of inclusion in our society and the world over. It's easy to put. I could have easily in Taare Zameen Par created a resource room, a counselor. I was aware of that, but I didn't do it. It was just the regretful parent who re-accepts the child with all his beauty and not seeing any damage in that child. And a simple art teacher, who was my art teacher, Nikum sir. I think we spoke about Nikum sir from my Hansraj Morarji Public School. So these two beauties can actually blossom a child in the way a flower blooms in spring. So that is what Milestone is about. Yeah.
So this was your starting point to Taare Zameen Par in some senses.
Not just the starting point. I think it was the ending point also, much before Taare Zameen Par, because it was a realization moment for me. that, my God, I mean, what am I in?
Yeah.
I'm in a world of beautiful children. I'm in a world of minds and hearts which are pure, which are not corrupt, which are not polluted, which speak frankly and honestly and into your eye. And that is the respect I began gathering, you know, in tons and tons from the children that I interacted with.
Yeah.
And uh, Taare Zameen Par is the first picture window of children's hearts and minds. Stanley Ka Dabba is also that. The spirit of the children and their camaraderie is celebrated in Hawa Hawai. In Sniff, of course, it's a caper like an Enid Blyton caper.
Yeah.
But I don't move away from the mind of the child. Also, Saina, because little Saina kind of managed to do what, you know, what spirited children should be doing. And it was a showcase.
Yeah.
And little Saina, played by Naisha Bhatoe. Naisha Bhatoe today is sub junior India number one. So she's not an actor, she's a badminton champion. So she built credibility for the narrative, because you cannot play a world number one without being nation number one at least. And once the little girl was accepted in the viewer's mind as Saina, then Pariniti could walk in and play the rest of the film, you know. But the child's mind and the heart is at the center of all my concentration in life.
Yeah, so that remains a basic theme, the main theme of your work. And as you correctly pointed out, I think our education system is much faulty and exclusive in some senses because it doesn't include most of. Uh,
It doesn't include subjects. Forget children.
yeah,
It does not have a liberal arts valuation, which was so celebrated in Shantiniketan or at the Baroda School of Art. You know, so Maharaja Sayaji Rao Gaikwad established the Baroda University,
MSU.
and MSU is such an important place for the arts, just like Sir JJ School of Arts or Calcutta Presidency, or you know, there are so many places which are the hub of creative thinking, and all owe it to a certain center point of old world art patronage by the kingdoms of India. So, under the patronage of Rasik Maharajas and Maharanis, whether it is culinary art also, foods, you know, I really love Raja Rasoi or Anya Kahaniya, made by my friends Nidhi and Ashraf. And I, I just, it's mouth watering. The history of food, the art of food, and the, you know, recording of food over centuries. The same way, recording of art, recording of the miniatures, recording of sculptures, Ajanta, Ellora, Khajuraho, everywhere. So we've actually achieved a certain value uh, in its subtlety for the arts to blossom in our nation. And which is what Guruji Rabindranath Tagore kind of saw it as the future of Indian learning children in Shantiniketans. And I would love to see the whole nation turn into one big Shantiniketan, where alternative subjects, you know, not just math and science and IT and, you know, BMM, you know, management everywhere. How much will you manage, my friend? You need to be artful too to satisfy your soul. बाकी दो रोटी खानी है, सोने का बिस्किट तो खा नहीं सकते, जमा कर सकते हो लेकिन पचा नहीं सकते. तो कब जब अकल आएगी तब मजा आएगा. And I am a hopeful person. I only look for the good in every person, because there is a good side to every person प्रभु ने बनाया तो इतना तो खराब बनाया नहीं होगा किसी को. So I just keep looking for hope and optimism and represent the children's dabba and open it to the world. फिर अगर आपको महक आएगी या चटकारा लेना होगा इस डब्बे का तो ध्यान दीजिए.
as you did in Stanley Ka Dabba.
वो मैं सिर्फ डब्बे का चटकारा कर रहा था. मैं बच्चों के डब्बे की बात कर रहा हूँ, नॉट बच्चों के टिफिन के डब्बे. डब्बा कॉल्ड चिल्ड्रन,
Yeah.
box called children. Unbox them is what I meant. Yeah.
And another part, it's unrelated, but part that I loved in Taare Zameen Par was the last scene when you showed Lalita Lazmi ji on screen. You know, the most important, I think, one of the most important artists of her time, and I think M.K. Raina played the principal.
Yes, I sought him out from Delhi.
Hmm. So, how did Lalita ji became part of the project for the final?
See, the problem was, I'm a I wanted to celebrate my Nikum sir, of course, which is why Amir plays Nikum. But I also wanted to celebrate another great teacher, a, a teacher and a painter called Badri Narayan. I don't know whether you are aware of Badri Narayan. You can Google. He's one of the finest painters of India and around the world. And his Jatak series and so many wonderful things. So Badri Narayan used to be a teacher at Bombay International School, an art teacher. Apart from being such an celebrated painter himself. So I wanted him to actually represent. So all my drafts have the word Badri Narayan comes, and he doesn't come to judge. There's been an anomaly in the film, which I will discuss about it. He doesn't come to judge. He comes because it's an art mela. It's called an art mela. It's not an art competition. So in the art mela, a teacher and a painter is moving around, and he's watching children's paintings and even teachers' paintings and reacting to it and collecting a few and saying these are so nice. And the principal, for the first time, who's painted since his childhood, so much so that he says this, कि आज का दिन इतना खूबसूरत था कि रंगीन खिड़की के रंगीन शीशों से को पार करके पहुंच गए अपने बचपन में. तो ये रैना M.K. Raina's line as principal कि I found my own childhood, and in order to celebrate that and such a mela, I have decided to throw away the regular conservative book cover and the back cover of our school magazine, which will normally be like with a school building and emblems of Lord Macaulay. So he says, दो अच्छी paintings आगे और पीछे करने का मौका मिला है, और ललिता जी ने कुछ पेंटिंग्स है. तो एक तो पेंटिंग है जो टीचर ने बनाई है अपने बच्चे की, और दूसरी है बच्चे ने बनाई है जो फ्रंट कवर रहेगा. तो इसमें तो कोई ना अवार्ड है, ना पद्म भूषण है, ना कुछ है. इसमें तो सिर्फ सिंपल वो है कि it's celebration of the art for the day which was art mela and well spent. तो बद्री जी आने वाले थे, बद्री नारायण, but he fell ill. He had cancer. So 3 months prior to that, he communicated to me that I can't make the trek to a shoot and things like that because I'm bedridden. So I said, who next best? मैं तो naturally गुरुदत्त जी का पंखा हूँ. Lalita Lajmi is Gurudutt's younger sister. Yeah. So मतलब घटक और गुरुदत्त से बड़ी चीज नहीं है मेरे लिए. So I said, Lalita ji, who is a great painter, and she had also exhibited at Prithvi in and around the time when I had exhibited with Sanjana Kapoor. I told you about it. All the big painters exhibited. I don't know one dwarf like me कहाँ उन्होंने fit कर दिया मेरे को उधर. But I'm thankful to Sanjana for that because I got to know Lalita Lajmi. I got to meet her. She came for my show also. So I approached her and I said, can you spare a couple of days and come to Panchgani? And just, you have to do nothing. You have to just be the spirit in the frame. And she acceded to that request and entered the film, you know. But having said that, she was as gentle, and even if you see Badri Narayan's face, it has the face of a sage. The same way Lalita Lajmi ji has that calmness of a sage. It befitted the film. That's how she was there.
And thanks to your film that I got to know about her, and I then got to know about her husband, who is now a Bharat Ratna, and her daughter Kalpana Lajmi, and I discovered them through
Her
you.
husband is a Bharat Ratna.
Yeah, you know, the singer.
No, no, he's not her husband. He was her daughter's partner, life partner.
Hmm.
Bhupen Hazarika, you're talking.
Bhupen Hazarika, yeah.
No, no, that's not her husband.
Oh,
Uh, Her husband was Mr. Lajmi, who passed
hmm.
earlier.
Oh, Kalpana's husband.
Kalpana's, yeah,
Partner.
partner. Yes, yes.
But it was because of your film that I got to know about that family and that connection with Guru Dutt,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that I was unaware of.
Amazing. As we speak, I am in touch continuously on a daily basis with Guru Dutt ji's younger brother. Uh, you know,
uh,
the
oh,
person, the person who made, who's the producer of Masoom,
wow,
Devi Dutt,
wow.
and that's every day. Right now, he is in Minneapolis, uh, staying with his children. He is himself about 80, 84, 85 years old, but he's such a cheerful man. And when I look at his face, of course, I can see his sister Lalita, I can see his elder brother Guru Dutt, who I love to death, of course.
So you were talking about an anomaly in Taare Zameen Par.
Yes. So I told you the whole story in the beginning, how it was Kurosawa's autobiography, and that just his painting accepted by his new art teacher
Hmm.
gave him the confidence of his life
Yeah.
and made him a filmmaker of such repute that there are very few filmmakers that the world knows as the great masters, and Kurosawa happens to be one of them. It's not just within Japan, it's within the community of cinema that Kurosawa is celebrated. So when I talk about nothing like an autobiography, his biography, autobiography, which says, I discovered myself through this teacher, and which was like, I'm also trying to pay homage to Nikum sir. But because I cast a superstar as Nikum sir, is when my problems began. Because all my drafts, except the last draft, did not have an epilogue. The draft was ended. It at half point, it was the flip book where the child is separated from the family. You know the flip book? The boy goes out of the frame and the boy has drawn it. He's painted it. And it is discovered by Nikum, the flip book, in his house when he comes to visit his parents and say, what is wrong with your son? That flip book was at a place where the boy is separated. And the logical and mathematical answer to complete this theorem would be that the boy comes back into the family. It's like ulta flip book of the boy re-entering the family. And that is how it was created. So what does he do to re-enter? He does nothing. He is accepted by Lalita Lajmi, Nikum sir, Principal Sahab. The entire school stands up and claps for him when his painting is adjudged, the painting to be on the cover of the school magazine. He's found himself and he's so overwhelmed that he can't even face Lalita Lajmi and get a citation he rushes into Nikum sir's arms and weeps. But that was not the end in my last penultimate draft. When he weeps, he also looks over Nikum sir's shoulder and he sees that his parents have come to take him back. Leaving Nikum sir's uh, embrace, he runs into his mother's embrace, which is the most comforting embrace a human being can get. And in that embrace, where he's standing and she's on her knees, the person who comes down on his knees is his father, the horrible uh, Mr. Avasthi. Later, earlier, Ishan Nand Kishore Rao is actually a true human being, not dyslexic, of course, but he's the first child that I have had a contact and connect with. He's my best friends, Sumita Hatangadi and Nandu Rao's first son. They have a second daughter, Shruti. But Ishan actually played in my arms. And it was actually a tribute to his name, Ishan Nand Kishore Rao. But unfortunately, Bipin Sharma, he had some accent and he couldn't pass off as a Rao. So then he had a northern accent. So then we had to call it Avasthi, you know, rename the family as Avasthis. It didn't damage the film at all. What damaged the film is something else, I feel. That damage is that when his father comes down on his knees and apologizes to the son, that I was wrong in punishing you, my son, and please forgive me and accept me in your fold. The next thing the boy does with joy, guess what? He runs into the field. There is an high jump pole which earlier he couldn't cross in one of the earlier scenes. That day, just like Kurosawa, he just keeps jumping over and over and over again. And that's his big leap. That's his freedom. Instead, because I had to deal with a Superman from the film industry, he said, people will want more from me. Not, I said, isn't acceptance enough? No, no. Since you have been working in the field, he said to me, you know that by doing like 3D claymation, you can learn the alphabet because there's a 3D understanding with dyslexic children faster than a two-dimensional alpha beta. Is it not true? I said, okay, it's true. So are there no methods where a child can improve if he or she is, has a difference of not learning the alpha beta, which is, by the way, created by man, not created by God. Alphabets are not created by God. Nobody asks a person living in the Amazon who's 120 years old, and while he's lying on his deathbed with his great grandchildren and grandchildren and children and a huge brood of 200 family members for whom he provided by hunting and fishing and foraging, nobody's going to ask him, "Yaar, tere ko ABCD aata hai kya?" No, that's a fulfilled life without ABCD. So on the same parameter or the barometer, you can't have judgments about, then in that case, 90% of the world 99% would be dyslexic for football, for instance. If you can't connect the ball, are you handicapped? Are you disabled? If you can't paint a flower, which 99% of the population cannot with alacrity, then is that person disabled? Is that child disabled? No, we don't count that in the parameters. If there is an emotional quotient which is missing in a child, is it connected with the intelligence quotient, which is merely a figure? He's got a IQ of 169. What does it mean? IQ of 169 without the EQ, without the emotional quotient. So we are really short-sighted race as a world, and we have very bad way of measuring intelligence and emotional quotients. So having said that, when this argument was put to me, that don't they improve? I said, yeah, of course they improve, but they improve just to run like horses in your races. You know? But they do, right? So if Nikum works with him and does all those things which a resource person does or a counselor does, will he or will he not improve? Unfortunately, I had to answer yes, of course he'll improve. He says, then put it as an epilogue. And in the end, the way the boy was disabled, he stayed disabled all his life in the film. Because the epilogue spoils the whole film. The film is about a child being recognized for what he or she has. Again, you're putting him into the racetrack. And two teachers actually have the insolence of saying that Nikum turned around the boy. Huh? The English teacher says. And the Hindi teacher says, अरे आया था तो पता ही नहीं चलता था कि इसका क्या होगा. लेकिन निकुम सर ने उसको पूरा बदल दिया. उसके मार्क्स भी अच्छे हैं, हिंदी मार्क्स अच्छे हैं, अंग्रेजी मार्क्स अच्छे हैं, साइंस में भी अच्छा कर लिया. And the slap on my face was the last frame, Nikum throwing him up like a high jump. इससे बड़ी डिसेबिलिटी मैंने अपने लाइफ में नहीं देखी. एबल होने के बाद बच्चा डिसेबल हो गया. इसका पाप मैं ढो रहा हूं मेरे दोनों कंधों पर और बहुत शर्मिंदगी महसूस करता हूं कि मैंने ये अलाउ कैसे किया, ये होने कैसे किया. लेकिन आप अगर फाइन प्रिंट देखेंगे और पढ़ेंगे, मुफ्त के आंसू तो दुनिया बहाती है. भाई एक दिन दोपहर को बैठ लिए, पॉपकॉर्न गरम कर लिया, तारे जमीन पर ले देख लिया, गंगा बह गई, मजा आ गया. पर ये उसका मूल हेतु नहीं है. तारे जमीन पर is celebrating the child. But have we really, with that epilogue, celebrated the child? No. We have again disabled him. And जो खुद उड़ने वाला था over the high jump pole, उसको दो बाहों को पकड़कर फेंका गया हवा में. क्या उसे उड़ान कहेंगे हम? तो आप मेरी बात समझ सकते हैं. अभी 15 साल होने को आए, इस बात को मैं खुले दिल से कह सकता हूं कि nobody else's fault, my fault. मुझे क्या, किसी ने काटा था, किसी सांप ने, कुत्ते ने, जो मेरी बुद्धि भ्रष्ट हो गई. In that moment, I acceded to a ridiculous demand which destroyed the real motive of the intention.
It changed the narrative.
Completely. Without the epilogue, the boy goes back to his parents. His father comes down on his knees to apologize to the son for the harsh judgment that he is and the punishment that he's meted out to his lovely child. And the family goes back, and the last shot of the script was the flip book where the child comes back into the family. That was the end. देखो कितना, मतलब एक 5 मिनट ऐड करके कितनी बड़ी खाई में गिर गया मैं. It is not recognized. I mean, I'm sorry for pinpointing it and underlining it. दुनिया को तो लगता है कि वाह क्या बात. पर ये मेरी जिम्मेदारी है. If I am truly talking about children and their values, then this is the forum for me to say it out loud कि मैं चक्रव्यूह में फंस गया, बाहर निकल नहीं पाया. अभी तक सोच रहा हूं कैसे निकलूं बाहर. तो मेरी स्थिति ऐसी हो गई कि ईशान को तो निकुम मिल गया कहानी में, उसे बचाने वाला या उसको समझने वाला. अपना तो ईशान की तरह अभी तक मैं दर बदर भटक रहा हूं. Yeah.
And did you try to correct that in your other films?
I have always corrected it. Everything else, if you see what I have done after that, post that, I have had, first of all, I became producer. I turned producer with minimum resource. I managed to keep the thought pure. and address it in a way that it was not socially or politically incorrect for children, including the best practices, not auditioning children, children not losing a day of school, children in an environment where it is like a workshop and not like a film set, not overindulging their ambitions, but creating a highway for the process of learning cinema, theater, art. So ये तो मैं कर ही रहा हूँ तब से, once bitten, twice shy.
Yeah. Uh, your stint with children did not start with you know this film or other, but it started with a TV show called Bindas Bol.
अरे नहीं यार, well, it started with my childhood
Hmm.
because as I was growing up, I had a smaller sibling,
Hmm.
Atul, my younger brother, nearly 5 years younger than me.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a lovely place called Bhima Nagar in Andheri East in Mumbai. Bhima Nagar is a cooperative of life insurance corporation workers, office goers, white collars, coming together, pooling their resources, buying land, and creating this 11 building society called Bhima Nagar with 188 flats. So I grew up in an environment of that kind of cooperation. In that Bhima Nagar, 80% of the population had two-member workers, which means wife and husband both work, just like my mother. My mother worked in LIC uh, along with Sachin Tendulkar's mother, Rajni Tendulkar, for 40 years of her life. 42 years, my mother served LIC. So that was like a place where men and women were equals and stepping out of the house to work. At such a time where, we are not like loaded where you have a 24/7 home help and things. So there are other mothers who had younger children. And then I became Amol Dada to all these babies. So I have Suresh Padmanabhan from my neighbor's child who was barely 6 months old. And I used to take him to the tailor, इधर उधर अगर मेरा काम है वो बच्चा मेरी गोद में घूम रहा हूँ मैं उसके साथ. या my neighbor, her daughter Mamta, Tinu we used to call her. She was so attached that one day, because she had to be taken home, she developed fevers. She had to be brought back in the night. कि नहीं अमोल, वो तो रो रही है तुम्हारे लिए. She was barely 3 months old, 4 months old. तो अगर आप ये कहते हैं कि वो बिंदास बोल में आया तो नहीं, वो वहां तो बिंदास बोल में एक रेजोल्यूशन आया क्योंकि my ears and eyes were open for the sounds and the meanings that children created from their voices and their expressions. Found an expression in Bindas Bol. That's 1995. That's way later than, because I must have been 33 years old then when I did Bindas Bol. And but I had the essence. When you're talking to somebody, the chances are don't complete your question and go to your next question without listening to the answer. The chances are that the answer will take you to another question. You can't pre-program कि भाई ये 15 सवाल जो है पूछने ही है. And there were other talk shows at that time, I won't name them, but it was an agenda-driven thing. Okay, my next question, my next research nugget, my next this. But यहाँ तो it was age group 15 to 23, 24. Bindas Bol was a young adults show. And it spoke very clearly. I can't talk to my parents, you know. It talked about gender, it talked about everything. So it was a frank show which I headed, and I had Mahesh Ane and Sailesh Chandrakant, my friend, as directors on the show and technical directors also, and a research team, which was a wonderful team headed by Zubin Driver, who's a very good writer himself, and Vikram Hazra, who now, is with Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. He's that wonderful singer. Uh, uh, he's a bard now, and I'm mighty proud of him, and many other people. So it was a team which was young, and it was a team that was listening to the young and paying heed to find answers for their anguishes and their queries. So Bindas Bowl was just one a later station, but being with children was was so natural to me. Though I was looking after my younger brother, uh, having a baby in the house and mother working, somebody has to grow up fast. So that was me. Yeah.
So it was a first professional milestone in some sense, is Bindas
Yeah,
Ball.
in a way you could say that.
Yeah.
First professional milestone, yes. Yes.
And
And also I had the technique because I was a theater person already. I had done nearly 100 films by then at the FTI. So acting and painting, I had already getting ready for my first show as an artist. So I thought, let me just take this whole kadhai and see what happens with interacting with young ones.
mm, uh, coming back to Taare Zameen Par for one more question, you also painted all the Ishan's artwork in the
What
film.
Ishan had done, yeah, most of it, not his last. I got Samir Mandal to come and do. Anyway, he did Ishan's portrait,
Hmm.
which Nikum does, you know. So Samir Mandal, I revere right from the time he used to make, you know, portraits of film stars for Illustrated Weekly for Pritish Nandi. You know, that was the time when we were growing up, and what a vibrant watercolorist India has, Samir Mandal. So Samir Da came and did both the paintings, last two paintings. The rest, because I was also trying to express myself, and after a long hiatus in painting and arts, I enjoyed doing the gola in the boy's mouth, in an impressionistic finger painting way, or the soldier that escapes when you turn the page, the soldier has made his escape. This was actually an event when I was doing a workshop with MDA, Maharashtra Dyslexia Association. One of the children actually did that drawing for me. Of a, I said, incomplete lag raha hai," because he was telling me that, and the soldier escapes. So when I turned the page around, the painting continued behind, and there the soldier escaped from the tunnel. So it was a homage to that little boy who had shown me the way in a workshop where I was meant to teach, but I ended up learning. That, and my own son Partho was a little boy. It's a learning lesson for all teachers. He he was in his art class in Besson Montessori, and he painted the whole A4 size paper or the card paper blue. It's like a wash of blue, you know. And there's one black dot on it. And then you turn it around, that black dot has become so large in the white, and it has jagged teeth, white teeth. It's the approaching shark in the blue. His art teacher failed to understand it because she never turned the page. She said, "What is this?" She said, "It's a shark." He said, "Oh, rubbish, there's a black dot on blue." तो किसको कौन समझाएगा? Sabar, patience. When you turn the page, you'll find the answer. So these are my learnings, actually.
And the what to say, the shortcomings of the education system, because it
No,
takes
you
so
can't
much
blame the
effort
education
and
system. The education system is not a machine.
Hmm.
It is manned by human beings.
Yeah.
So there was a human being called Rabindranath Tagore.
Yeah.
There were great teachers in the past
Yeah.
of the arts. Weren't they teachers? Weren't the gurus in the Gurukul any less?
No.
Where even the Raja ka beta has to wear a janeu. We spoke about it.
Yeah.
He has to just go at age 7
Yeah.
into the forest. Jao. Go into the forest, go into your guru's kutia, serve him. उनके पैर दबाओ, उनको सेवा दो, और उससे जो मिलता है वो मेवा, which is your education. तो अभी तो ऐसा है कि एक कॉफी ऐसा हो गया. आप रेस्टोरेंट में बैठे हो ऐसा लगता है, आप गुरुकुल में बैठे हो ऐसा कतई नहीं लगता. ऐसा लगता है कि ए भाई तू अभी क्या बोल रहा है, अभी मेरे पिताजी की तो सैलरी इतनी है कि हम लोग को पता नहीं चलता कैसे उस पैसे को इस्तेमाल करें. तो तुम्हारी सैलरी क्या हो सकती है? तो तुम तो वेटर हो, लाओ ज्योग्राफी लाओ, एक प्लेट ज्योग्राफी लाओ, आधी प्लेट, वन हेल्पिंग ऑफ मैथमेटिक्स. और ज्यादा शोर शराबा किया तो ट्रस्टी से बात करेंगे. माय फादर विल टॉक टू द ट्रस्टी के इस इंसोलेंट टीचर को बोलो ठीक से बात करें मेरे साथ. ऐसे में आप हाउ विल यू शेयर नॉलेज? It has to be a two-way thing. I'm not just rubbishing the haughty child who is expressing the power of money which has been discussed in the house. I'm also talking about the myopic teacher who, तो it's ताली दो हाथ से बजती है भाई. प्रॉब्लम यहाँ तब होता है जब दोनों हाथ सिंक्रोनिसिटी से दूर हो जाते हैं, तो सिर्फ थप्पड़ पड़ने लगते हैं उन हाथों से, ताली नहीं बजती. तो फिर ऊपर वाला ही बचा है ऐसी अवस्था से. बट ये अवस्था है, दैट इज इन एग्जिस्टेंस अराउंड अस. वी कांट रन अवे फ्रॉम दैट ट्रूथ. इट इज monetized. Education has been branded, monetized, exclusivized, new word, made it exclusive for the rich, and created a larger divide between citizens. आप पे कर सकते हो तो आप हो, आप नहीं कर सकते तो आप नहीं हो. It's like that. And that's sad because कैसे अपॉर्चुनिटी सेम होगी? अपॉर्चुनिटी को सेम होने के लिए थोड़ा सा एगैलिटेरियन होना अच्छा. That's why the neighborhood schools were nice. अब मेरे ही होली फैमिली स्कूल में मैं आपको बताता हूँ, जब मैं बच्चा था तो पहले तो इट वाज अ मॉर्निंग स्कूल. फिर क्योंकि बिल्डिंग एक्सटेंड हो गई और दिन की स्कूल बन गई, तो सेकंड रिसेस आने लगी. नहीं तो एक छोटी रिसेस होती थी. मॉर्निंग में बड़े बच्चे आते थे, आफ्टरनून में छोटे बच्चे आते थे, प्राइमरी वाले. अब हो गया सब एक साथ आएंगे, 9 to 4 का जो चालू हो गया. फिर एक लंच ब्रेक हो गया. लंच ब्रेक हो गया तो इसका मतलब लंच माँ ने बनाना, अभी सुबह सुबह डब्बे में डालना 8 बजे, तो वो एक दिक्कत ही थी. और फिर ऐसे भी बच्चे थे जिनके पास घर में सुविधा नहीं थी टू मेक फूड, पैसे नहीं थे, गरीब बच्चे भी थे, नेबरहुड स्कूल था. ऐसे में जो मेहरा फैमिली आती थी, स्टैनली का डब्बा, आई हैव सेलिब्रेटेड अमन मेहरा, बट वाज अ रियल फैमिली. तो उनके तो लिवरीड शोफर आते थे बाकायदा लंच टाइम में, और एक दस्तरखान बिछाते थे, एक बड़े बड़े डब्बे निकलते थे, और मेहरा फैमिली के खाने पे सबको न्योता था. एनीबडी हु डज नॉट हैव फूड, या डब्बा नहीं लाए हैं या कुछ हो गया है, आओ बैठो खाना खाओ. तो दैट वाज द लार्ज हार्टेडनेस ऑफ दिस मेरा ब्रदर्स. तो आज डैटसन में खाना आया, कल फोर्ड में खाना आया, परसों ऐसी फॉरेन कार्स कभी देखी नहीं थी तभी हमने. सिर्फ हिंदी फिल्म के हीरो लोग, धर्मेंद्र वगैरह, राजेश खन्ना के पास शेवरोले और जितेंद्र के पास शेवरोले, इस तरह से बड़ी गाड़ियां होती थी. भैया हमारे स्कूल के कंपाउंड में ड्राइव इन करने वाली धूल उड़ाती गाड़ी लाल रंग की डैटसन और नीले रंग की फोर्ड और कैपरी और ये सब इस तरह की गाड़ियां थी. तो ये मेरा फैमिली दिल खोल सबको खाना खिलाती थी. सो इट इज अबाउट दैट नेबरहुड स्कूल वेयर अभी आज की तारीख में मेरा बड़े बुजुर्ग मेरा कैसे अपने बच्चों को होली फैमिली में भेजेंगे? वो तो बोलेंगे कि यार कोई इंटरनेशनल बड़ा सा स्कूल देखो जिसका साल का फीस जो है 15 लाख से कम ना हो, एयर कंडीशन कैंटीन हो, एयर कंडीशन क्लासरूम हो, एयर कंडीशन गाड़ी में, एयर कंडीशन घर से निकले, सब कुछ एयर कंडीशन। कल बात की हमने उसके बारे में। तो ये एसी में रियल लाइफ कैसे इंटीग्रेट होगा यार? मेरा भारत तो है महान, लेकिन वो कैसे समझूं मैं? मेरे जिसके पास नहीं है, जो मुफलिस है, उस गरीब के बारे में मैं, मेरा थॉट कैसे जाएगा अगर एक्सपोजर ही नहीं है तो ये थोड़ा सा मतलब ये अपना कल्चर भी नहीं है। अपना कल्चर हमेशा से इंक्लूसिव रहा है ऑफ ऑल द वैल्यूज। मतलब ये तो पता नहीं कैसे ये ग्रेट डिवाइड आ गया, जहां मनी बिकेम कनेक्टेड विथ बोथ एजुकेशन एंड हॉस्पिटल्स, मेडिकेयर। तो दो तबके बन गए,
Hmm.
ऐसा है। तो दैट्स अ लॉस फॉर अस, व्हाट इट्स।
Yeah, I think much has to do with globalization and the opening of economy in the 90s that I think to a certain extent changed the way of living in India.
या मतलब वो आई मी माई सेल्फ हो गया ना,
Hmm.
अस से आई मी माई सेल्फ।
The American way, as you said.
Yes, it is. I mean, I'm not rubbishing it,
Yeah.
but I'm not celebrating it, for sure.
Hmm.
You know, मेरा बच्चा भी लॉस एंजलिस में पढ़ता है, मतलब
Hmm.
पढ़ चुका,
Hmm.
ग्रेजुएशन कर चुका फ्रॉम द बेस्ट फिल्म स्कूल ऑफ द वर्ल्ड। तो मैं दोगलेपन में नहीं फंसना चाहता। मैं आई वांट टू एडमिट, यस, क्योंकि सिनेमा जो स्टूडियो सिस्टम, वो जो बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस जो हैं, वो सारी लॉस एंजलिस में हैं। तो ही चोज USC, School of Cinematic Arts, over NYU Tisch, where he had acceptances. I told you about it. Columbia too, Syracuse, everywhere he was accepted. But having said that, यार एक पाँव तो जमीन पर रखो, अपनी दोस्तियां निभाओ। सबके पास सब कुछ नहीं होता, इसका मतलब तुम उसको जज मत करो। क्या पता उसके पास वो बहुत बड़ी मिल्कियत होगी, और उस मिल्कियत का नाम है ह्यूमैनिटी। तो ह्यूमन है ना, रोबोट्स तो नहीं है। We have hearts and minds. We have to employ our time in order to serve that. You're serving yourself. You're selfish, frankly, to serve your heart and your mind so that you have peaceful sleep.
So when you write honestly about an important issue like about children, which you write with all honesty, लेकिन जब when you make that commercially because art I think according to Alfred Hitchcock is for commerce, the basic aim, American way. So do you think that that honesty is lost? You have answered it to some extent in earlier, but
So my thing is that if I lose the honesty, why be investing my time in uh, starting off with honesty and and ending being dishonest? उससे अच्छा नाम बनाओ ना, घर में खाना बनाओ, पेंटिंग बनाओ, एक कविता लिखो। ये 20 लोगों का झोल क्यों कर रहे हो? For your own selfishness, then this is not the place. Honesty will always speak out from your work if it is honest. And to date, I have tried to keep that honesty. So I won't be able to answer your question. I know that we are living in a third world, so I don't like to waste resource. I don't like to misuse the trust of children. And I like to make the process a fun process of cinema for the children's stakeholders. If some adults in the unit are not behaving according to what I need, then I have the gumption and the courage to throw them out because they are not following a certain golden rule of being sensitive to children. That's the only parameter, you know. And frankly, I'm not. Uh, I don't judge children, so I don't judge anybody. You know. So it's not like you're good, he's bad, she's good. It's not about that. Everyone has his own pace. I have my own pace. There are other people who have judged me very harshly because of my pace. And I would not like to sacrifice that pace. And I continue to be in that pace and that space. And I don't like to dominate it. I like to sit down and at the eye height of children, looking into their eyes, communicate and make whatever it takes to make something fruitful. I wouldn't go beyond that. I don't imagine and think at all that I'm in any league in Hindi cinema. I'm not. Uh, but I try to survive and exercise what I imagine is a truthful arm of cinema.
And is that the reason why your filmography is very limited if compared to other contemporaries?
Yeah, I think either you can call it laziness or you can call it, you know, time unnecessarily spent thinking. But that is the world to decide. For me, 3 years is a very good uh, time to make one baby, you know, and nurture it, you know, like a baby you would. Having given Partho the 3 years of his life, the complete attention, and then followed him to the school, and then stayed in the school from 9 to 1 all 6 days, all 5 days. Saturday was a chutti. All 5 days for 7 years. I was the honorary secretary of the PTA for 7 years, secretary, chairman, whatever, honorary storyteller for babies. I reinvented myself there as Amol Frog because I had this dadi muchi. I thought children will get scared of my persona. So and they happily lapped it up. I said, I'm Froggy, Beduk Kaka, Mendak Chacha. And I used to tell them stories, bring in Ogden Nash's limericks to third and fourth standard English children, English language class. I had 7 wonderful years in Besant Montessori, thanks to Dolly Auntie. May her soul, be peaceful because she was so peaceful to children. I'll give you the example of what I mean because cinema तो चलता रहेगा but लोगों को रूबरू करवाना मेरा काम है. I entered for the first time before Partho entered the school to take admission. Naturally, you have to take admission. तो I wandered into the school. No gate, gate fully open, wicket gate, wooden gate, छोटा सा जो दिखता है through everything, and small 1.5 फुट का wall. That's it. अंदर जाता हूँ तो एक बंगलो टाइप स्ट्रक्चर है, आजू बाजू में मिट्टी है, स्लाइड है, राउंड अबाउट है, खेलने की चीजें हैं, जंगल जिम है. I enter the steps of this lovely place. Inside there are children all over. Outside there are children all over. And there's one big table. And somebody is occupying that big chair behind that big table. उसके सामने there are 3 other chairs. उसमें एक old lady बैठी हुई है साड़ी में. And उसको जिस तरह से हनी कोम को हनी बीज चिपकती हैं, ऐसे 5-6 बच्चे चिपके हुए हैं उनको. और सामने एक लेडी बैठी हुई है. मुझे लगा कि दिस इज द हेड ऑफ इंस्टीट्यूशन क्योंकि वो सेंट्रल प्लेस है. इट्स लाइक द चेयरमैन्स चेयर, chairwoman's chair. So I kind of saluted her and said, "Ma'am, I've come to meet Dolly Auntie." I thought this is Dolly Auntie because I was told that Auntie Dolly is the chairperson of the school and the trustee. देखता हूँ तो वो तो ममता निकली जो उस चेयर पे थी. शी वॉज सिटिंग देयर टू कलेक्ट फीस. और सामने जो बुजुर्ग लेडी बैठी थी इन her end of 70s, white and light violet butti ka sari, that is Dolly Aunty. So when a person downscales his or own importance in an institution or an organization, it tells a lot about that person's character. The minute I understood that this जो मैग्नेट की तरह बच्चे चिपके हुए हैं इनको, ये हेड ऑफ इंस्टीट्यूशन है, मैंने उनके पांव पकड़ लिए, बोला मेरे बच्चे को ले लो, मैं लेके आ रहा हूँ ऑन द फर्स्ट डे. और तब से फॉर 7 years इट वाज अ ब्यूटीफुल टाइम. आपने तारे जमीन पर में वो बच्चा अर्ली स्कूल में स्पोर्ट्स डे जीतता है, उसको मेडल पहनाते हैं. वो जो मेडल पहनाने वाली जो लेडी है वो डॉली आंटी थी, क्योंकि वो उस स्कूल का एक्चुअल स्पोर्ट्स डे था, विच आई हैड शॉट, यू नो. एंड दैट स्कूल इज द रियल स्कूल जहाँ पे ईशान पहली मर्तबा रोता है, उसकी माँ बाहर है. आई वॉन्टेड टू ऑफकोर्स शो अ रेगुलर ब्रूटल स्कूल, बट देन दिस स्कूल अलाउड मी टू कम एंड शूट. एंड उस स्टैनली का डब्बा का पूरा कॉन्सर्ट है. ऑल द चिल्ड्रन आर बेसेंट मॉन्टेसरी चिल्ड्रन. बेसेंट मॉन्टेसरी की बात बताऊं, एक सेंट एंड्रूज ऑडिटोरियम नाम का ऑडिटोरियम है बांद्रा में, जहाँ पे अक्सर मोस्ट ऑफ द बॉम्बे स्कूल्स, जितने जो मुंबई की शालाएं हैं, उनके प्रेस्टिजियस स्कूल्स, वो उनके एनुअल डेज वहाँ होते हैं, कॉन्सर्ट्स, यू नो. अब ये बेसेंट मॉन्टेसरी स्कूल का हेड काउंट ऑफ चिल्ड्रन, कैन यू गेस फॉर 7 standards ऑल टुगेदर कितने होंगे बच्चे?
30-35.
नहीं, पूरा स्कूल गिन के, पूरा मिला के.
2-3,000 maybe.
हाँ, it's 250 children only. The whole school is 250 children and there are about 25 teachers. तो मतलब रेशो बहुत अच्छा है टीचर स्टूडेंट का. तो ये 250 बच्चे, उसके मुकाबले में से एनी अदर बिग स्कूल विच इज रेंजिंग फ्रॉम 4,500 to 5,000 स्टूडेंट्स. तो एंड सारे, इवन बेसेंट का कॉन्सर्ट वहीं पे होता है. यू सीन इट इन स्टैनली का डब्बा, दैट सेंट एंड्रूज ऑडिटोरियम जहाँ पे वो कॉन्सर्ट हुआ, विच आई काइंड ऑफ जस्ट पुट 6 cameras and shot the concert which I had created for the children. Having said that, उधर का मैनेजर कतराता है जब बेसेंट आता है फॉर कॉन्सर्ट. आपके 250 बच्चे जो है ना, इतना गदर मचाते हैं जो 5,000 बच्चे दूसरे स्कूल के नहीं कर सकते. वो आते हैं चुपचाप, फाइल में आते हैं, लाइन में चले जाते हैं, फिंगर ऑन लिप रहता है, एक शब्द नहीं, इतना अथॉरिटेटिव. और ये जो 250 का जो झुंड है, वो इतना शोर, सब फाड़ो, पर्दे फटे, ये होता है, वो होता है. और बेसेंट की जो स्कूल बस भी जब चलती है तो जोर शोर के साथ चलती है. और दूसरी स्कूल बसेस देखो, बाद में मैं देखता हूँ, सब चुपचाप, धुंधले बच्चे, मुरझाए हुए बच्चे, चुपचाप बाहर देख रहे दुनिया कि अभी जेल जाना है, कुछ ही वक्त में जेल जाएंगे. और जेल में इतने थक गए कि जेल से बाहर निकल के भी कोई खुशी नहीं है, थक गए हैं बेचारे, घर जाके सो जाते हैं, या होमवर्क करना पड़ता है, या सारा मतलब टीचर का जितना प्रेशर है वो बच्चे के सर पर फूटता है. तो ये बात इसलिए मैं कह रहा था कि दिस इज हाउ चाइल्ड फ्लावर्स, यू अलाउ द चाइल्ड टू फ्लावर. when I'm saying that Partho dictated from the day he knew how to speak कि वो क्या खाएगा, menu is dictated by the child. क्या बनाओ बेटा आज, मतलब ये बनाओ, आज ये बनाओ, खा भी लेता था मजे से, क्योंकि उसने डिमांड किया. आई टोल्ड यू अबाउट इट डे बिफोर कि भाई मेन्यू जब आता है तुम्हारे पास रेस्टोरेंट में, तुमको जो अच्छा लगता है वही तुम मंगाते हो ना. अभी उधर करेला है लेकिन आपको अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है तो आप थोड़ी मंगाएंगे करेला है. तो घर में तो माँ बाप तो जबरदस्ती करते हैं, मतलब खत्म करो, नहीं तो जो बचा हुआ है जो सर पे मल देंगे. इस तरह की जो मतलब घटनाएं होती है घर में. मैंने भी, सही है, मेरे माँ पिताजी ने फिर जबरदस्ती मुझे करेला खिलाया, अभी अच्छा लगता है, ऐसा नहीं. बट टू ईच इज ओन करेला, इट्स लाइक दैट.
So I think that was the whole process of making Stanley Ka Dabba. Then your involvement with your child Partho.
Yeah, absolutely. My Stanley Ka Dabba for me, it's my involvement with Holy Family. So the children are from Holy Family because it was a workshop. So the only child who was going there to Holy Family every Saturday was Partho. And then once the concert happened, it was an inter-school concert anyway. So it was not meant to have Holy Family children there, except this boy wanted to get into that concert. तो क्योंकि उसका कॉन्सर्ट उसके स्कूल का था, वो मैंने प्रोड्यूस किया, क्रिएट किया. The music, the everything, the text and the rehearsals, 3 महीने rehearsals, the choreography. So it's all there in the film. That's real. सिर्फ क्या पार दो वो होली फैमिली का फटा हुआ जेब फटी हुई है, कपड़े गरीब कहाँ से आता है वो बाद में पता चलता है, पर वो सब अपने कपड़े एक ही कपड़े हैं उसके पास जो स्कूल के कपड़े हैं, तो वो उसका इस्तेमाल उधर भी प्रैक्टिस में भी करता हो in that rehearsal of the concert, if you remember the film. So I tried to integrate in a genuine way ताकि रिसोर्स पे तकलीफ ना हो. नहीं तो क्या वो ठोक के आप प्रोड्यूसर को बोलते नहीं मेरे को ये चाहिए, मेरे को 400 बच्चे चाहिए, तो क्या वो खरीदवाएगा क्या? मतलब क्या चाहिए तुमको, 400 बच्चे क्यों चाहिए? 400 बच्चों को होल्ड पे रखा है, स्टार का वेट कर, 400 बच्चे ढल रहे हैं, जब उनकी बारी आती है 8-9 घंटे पक चुके होते हैं, और फिर तुम बोलते एकदम फ्रेश बनो, गार्डन फ्रेश बनो, दिखाओ अपना हुनर, अब टाइम आ गया. क्यों इतना लेट क्यों? couldn't you create a timetable? School creates a timetable ना. 8 बजे ज्योग्राफी, 8:45 2 मिनट रिसेस, 8:47 बॉटनी करते हैं ना. तो बच्चे को भी वैसे बुलाओ ना, उसको 4 बजे से बुला के रखा है 5 बजे से सुबह. वो स्टार पता नहीं बोला है 9 बजे आएगा, पर वो आता है रात के 9 बजे. बोलता है बोले दिन का सीन था, बोलो रात का कर दो ना, अभी लाइटिंग चेंज करो, रात का कर दो सीन को. और बच्चे बेचारे वो उधर पड़े हुए हैं वैनिटी में, अरे जगाओ उनको, चलो चलो जल्दी जल्दी थप्पड़ मारो उनको, जगाओ, लाओ कैटल टू द स्लॉटर. तो क्या बच्चे लोग को मतलब ऐसे ही बच्चे बेचारे बलि चढ़ते हैं, वो कोई सोचता नहीं उनके बारे में. अरे बच्चा है भाई, उसके माँ बाप बड़े एम्बिशियस हैं, लेके आएगा बिठाएगा, चलेगा अपने को. पर बाहर वो बड़े आदमी जो आने वाले हैं, ए लिस्टर स्टार, सारे जो उसकी तैनात में, शायद उसने जो बच्चे हैं उन तक का स्कूल भी ना किया हो. तो किसको शराफत कौन सिखाएगा? ये दुनिया ऐसी है. गुरुदत्त भी रोए थे, घटक भी रोए थे.
Yeah. But after that lesson of yours, big lesson, you kind of stayed away from the star culture. Hawa Hawai maybe nahi, not in Stanley Ka Dabba, you not even in Saina for that matter.
I mean, Pariniti is a star. I would not take that away from her, the bibliography of her work.
Yeah.
Very good work, and she's a very good actor.
Hmm.
So essentially, it was meaning स्टार को थोड़ा हैंडल करना पड़ता है, मैं नहीं कर पाता. I can say at the most that I fail each time.
Talking about the other star, there's always this friendly banter between the director and the editor. And your wife Deepa who is one of the best editors in the industry, is also your editor in most of all the, I think all the
All the
projects that you
we
did.
do it together, no? She's
So
on the set also, so we are co-direct. Actually, she's the uncredited director in my films. I would put it on record. कभी कभी क्या होता है, largest of your partner, who's actually your senior partner, doesn't allow you to put the names together. Otherwise, I would definitely like every film to rechristen it with a new title which says written, produced, and directed by Deepa Mole, as in Deepamole. So that would be the truth, verite, pravda. Yes.
how's your professional relation with your wife?
It's मतलब
Do you fight over scenes when editing?
No, I'm not such a fighter actually. And why fight when we are getting malpua? भाई बैठो खीर खाओ. बेवकूफ होगा जो बोलेगा नहीं ये खीर कड़वी है. खीर तो मीठी होती है. So I recognize that. I realize के to what level of aesthetic excellence uh, Deepa has achieved in. She's edited more than 27 films in her life, starting with Hazar Chaurasi Ki Maa, whatever, all Govindji's films earlier, Deham, Dev, Takshak, then Taare Zameen Par, My Name is Khan, Rock On, Kai Poche. The list goes on. Sachin, Rais. मतलब तुम देखो कितना उनका biography जो है, it far surpasses my biography, because she's that kind of a person. She's a solid pillar. And her own documentary, 2009 documentary, Nero's Guess, which she's the director of and the producer of that film, which won the Mumbai International Film Festival Fipreski Best Film, uh, 2009. And it happens to be in the Ministry of Justice at The Hague as one of the 10 films that changed the world. It's about the agrarian crisis, and yeah, she shoots from where her mouth is there, so, which is she's a brave person. And way back in 2009, she could understand the crisis of farmers, uh, the way it was being handled, and why 200,000 lives, 2 lakh lives were lost to suicide of farmers who were owners of 3 to 4 acres of land. They were not landless laborers, desperate. So the loss of their dignity and the loss of their honor, debt ridden because of many reasons. If you see the film, you'll get the understanding of what caused it. You know, we sold ourselves to foreign seed and foreign fertilizer, and we got debt ridden. Our farmers got debt ridden. We had our old ways of farming, sustainable farming. So वो तो बड़ी बड़ी बातें हैं. Of course, in my children's world, uh, there are left only with orphans of these dead farmers, which is why Hawa Hawai. It's a tribute to Deepa's Nero's Guess. So it's about a cotton farmer. It's
Yeah.
about a cotton farmer, dead cotton farmer, and what happens when a child becomes an orphan overnight. Uh, so it was a tribute to Nero's Guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Your last project, Saina, was a biopic of world once world number one badminton Saina Nehwal, who's still very young, and I think she'll achieve much more. But some of the reviewers kind of disagreed with the portrait of Saina. The mole was this big or whatever they said. But how do you see this genre of biopics in India? Because there was this whole trend of biopics after Bhag Milkha Bhag, Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra.
Actually, see, I stuck to the biopic actually. I didn't over dramatize it. Perhaps that is what was the lack. You need it to be like high intensity Mary Kom, or, but that's all fiction. A lot relies on Hindi film writing, dramatic writing. I don't possess that skill. I would like to keep it subtle. Now, whether the mole is large or small depends on the budget of the film also in terms of posts. So if I have told the actor, hey, listen, your mole is growing by the day, but if the actor is not going to take heed of that caveat or that caution, then the maximum I can do is keep the shot to the minimum, but I can't keep recreating moles in post production because that's mighty expensive. So I had to live with that But I had issued a warning every time. Okay, I think the size of the mole is shifting. I guess a little more attention to detail, and the actor could have nailed it.
And when you said over dramatizing biopics, our last guest, Shama Zaidi, man, she was talking about historic films in India, the genre of historic films. And she said, every film becomes a Londa Londia ka story, the love story between a boy and a girl. And I think that also kind of is true for biopics also. When you dramatize the love story.
I did not. I kept the boy very the way Kashyap is.
Yes. No, I'm
Having
talking about the other biopic.
I'm not. I have not seen other biopics because I don't want to muddle my head with what is required of me and what I am giving. It's better that I keep it at a temper where I am satisfied with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
As I told you, my boss Ketan Mehta, he paid me a very satisfying review tribute.
Yeah.
I think I'm happy with what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
क्रिटिक्स का क्या अभी क्या दुनिया गोल है सब घूमता रहता है आज फ्लेवर ये है कल फ्लेवर वो था कल फ्लेवर वो रहेगा तो डिपेंड्स हाउ यू एक्साइट पीपल मतलब इट्स लाइक दैट तो एक जमाने में अनुराग कश्यप वाज माय असिस्टेंट he was a little boy who was acting in Makarand Deshpande's plays and Makarand is my junior from college he's also Mahendra Joshi boy so we was doing a play at Prithvi in the festival, Makarand's play, and he said, "Sir, I want to join you as an assistant." I was writing that time, and I was painting, and I always required somebody to dictate to because I was painting simultaneously. You can't do both the jobs together, but you can paint with great fun, clarity. At the same time, you can dictate the next scene. So after having uh, him worked, him having worked for about 3.5 months, and that time I was writing Saeed and Aziz Mirza's Tejas for BITV then, which didn't take off, I guess. But at one point, I thought that he was doing more than just taking down dictation. So one day I took him to meet Aziz and Saeed at a location in Juhu. And I said, okay, I think I'm stepping out, but here's your new writer, Anurag Kashyap. ऐसा उसका I think it was must have been his first independent work. I don't know whether he remembers it or not. You know, especially when you become iconic, you remember what you want to. It's okay. He's iconic. Uh, he's celebrated, and I feel very happy and proud that he is where he is in terms of his syntax of cinema, and the reviewers love what he does, and uh, you know all the world over, the curators of big film festivals love him as a personal friend. Scorsese loves him. I mean, what's more? That's good.
So now coming to the part where we'll talk about separate particular films and films in general, because we are done with the personal stuff. Now the craft stuff, because we are already done with 1 hour 30 minutes. So
Makes
we
me look quite unemployed, I would say.
no, but I think this is the longest conversation that we are having, and I'm loving it. And I'm sure those who are listening to us, maybe Kashyap would listen to this, and other people in the industry would listen to this. Please accept our invitation for such interesting conversations. But moving ahead, do you think that there is a social responsibility for a filmmaker and an artist in the world that we inherited, in a sense?
Of course, there. I mean, you can't run away from responsibility to humanity. Social responsibility here is a newly coined word, but I would imagine, like for instance, in Taare Zameen Par, I bring it to a boil to such a point when Ishan has stopped painting, he has stopped participating in the classroom, and he is zoning. He's just looking over a high balcony wall, but it's so high that only his uh, elbows can reach that wall. And he's looking out and it's deep down, so it's at a height. If I was a person without social responsibility, then I would have created the moment that he starts climbing a ladder. Dun, 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 dun. Then I would have shown how deep the ravine is. And the intention would be clear that he's going to commit suicide. But there is no indicator in the visual or the audio track that he's trying to do that. It is just a moment of deep silence, solitude that the child is feeling. He has, of course, he's got dark circles under his eyes. Yes. But it is Rajan Damodaran. Rajan Damodaran is a true character who I shared my bench with in Holy Family High School, polio ridden. Today he is a very successful skin doctor specialist, Dr. D.T. Rajan, as in Damodaran Rajan. Homage to him too. So Rajan looks at him and he imagines, because he sees the boy has been so sad through the days, he imagines that he's going to jump. But the filmmaker does not give you any indication that he's putting a foot forward to take a leap and end it all. So when Rajan shouts out, Ishan kya kar raha hai? The first, and falls because of his anxiety, the first thing Ishan does is jump down and rescue his friend from that fall. Small example to give you. Now you see three idiots, three suicides of college students. I quit, I quit, I quit. So many people can take, young ones can take this easy cue, I quit. So is it social responsibility? You know, it has a, it is very much like Taare Zameen Par, I think, except that we are on opposite sides. Here I'm talking about a child who the world sees as a loser, and there is a child who the world sees as a winner, who gives great wisdom all over. You know, he's the guy who comes quintessentially first in the class. Just as Jitendra used to do, you know, he used to carry one book in his hand, notebook, and he rushes home and he tells his mother, you know, Mom, my class mein first aaya, something like that. So unbelievable, actually, because it has no logic. It does not have a back. His haircut doesn't show that he is ever an attentive student in class. But the hero of a film has to always come first in class. That's the tradition of our films, of our masala films. So sometimes I differ on these straight cues, you know, and the how you lactate for the emotion from the audience. There is no parhez. जो चीज सटली कहनी है उसको खींच तान के, मतलब आपको विप करके करके फटाफट फट्टे मार के आपसे वो आंसू निकलवा देंगे. I don't think I support that kind of cinema, because that is where, if we were talking about the same question, what is your social responsibility towards the society? What are the signals you're sending out? So essentially, it's best to be hopeful, of course. And if you're not hopeful, then don't make it hopeless. Because whatever Jhachad, whatever the name was of the winner, who in the end turns out to be Funsuk Wangdi.
Yeah, Jhachad.
Jhachad होगी. तो मतलब अगर मैं लूजर है लाइफ में, तो मैं झाछड़ नहीं समझूंगा अपने आप. वो झाछड़ 10 बार बोलेगा कि तू अपना कर, झक मार के सक्सेस तेरे पीछे दौड़ेगी. मैं देखूंगा अपना पैरेलल. वो मैं तो उसको देख रहा हूँ, अली फजल को देख रहा हूँ. उसी ने बनाया हुआ जो हेलीकॉप्टर कैमरा है, उसी से उसकी मौत रिकॉर्ड होती है। फिर दूसरा एक शर्मन जोशी भी कूद लेता है, और तीसरा प्रोफेसर का बेटा तो ऑलरेडी आत्महत्या कर चुका है। तो 3-3 आत्महत्याएं जो है ना, ये किसी के सर पे तो होंगी, इसकी बैलेंस शीट। क्योंकि बहुत सारे बच्चों ने उस दौर में ऐसा उनको लगा होगा, अरे ये तो अच्छा तरीका है, आई क्विट। टॉकिंग अबाउट सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, वरना मुझे इस मुद्दे में बिल्कुल इंटरेस्ट नहीं, यू नो, बट दैट्स माय पर्सनल फीलिंग कि सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी की बात अगर आप पूछते हैं तो लैंग्वेज कैसा हो, अगर बच्चों की तरफ जाने वाला है, तो अभी इतनी सारी फिल्में बना चुका हूँ बाय कॉन्शियसनेस। आई हैव केप्ट, अभी फूड कितना है मेरी फिल्मों में, बट आई हैव केप्ट द पैलेट वेजिटेरियन बिकॉज इट शुड नॉट अपसेट समबडी विजुअली, यू नो। मतलब जो पनीर बोल सकता है वो चिकन क्यों बोले? नाउ दैट इज सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी। किसी ने मेरे पे सेंसर नहीं लगाया, बट आई एम सेइंग कि क्यों मैं किसी को, या मैं दोस्ती करूं ऑडियंस के साथ, या उनको पुट ऑफ कर दूं। और मैं बच्चों के मुद्दे लेके आया, मेरे लिए मुद्दा मोर इंपॉर्टेंट है देन एनीथिंग एल्स, यू नो। आई डोंट, मुझे कुछ फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन लेके इतराना नहीं, मेरे पास मुद्दे हैं, आई हैव गॉट मोटिव्स एंड आई गॉट टू सॉल्व देम। तो ये मैं, आई मी माई सेल्फ में फंसूंगा नहीं। आई कीप everybody involved and engaged in the stories that I want to tell. It's like that.
And you are focused on telling the children's side of the story, not the political whatnots.
I, because वो 18 के नीचे है ना मेरा वर्ग, उनको तो वोटिंग राइट्स भी नहीं है, तो कहाँ हम लोग का मतलब कोई सुनेगा क्या? कुछ नहीं, ऐसा है। तो नहीं तो
And
खामखा डिस्ट्रैक्शन हो जाता है मेरे लिए, मुद्दा अलग रह जाता है, क्योंकि और दूसरी उलझन में फंस जाओगे, आर्ग्यूमेंट हो जाएगा, एक दूसरे के सर फोड़ोगे, उसका फल क्या है? देयर इज नो फ्रूट।
yeah,
मेरा अपना रास्ता डल हो जाएगा,
yeah.
है ना।
And not just that, I think the audience, the young minds, I think would also get affected because of that in some senses.
मैं बोल रहा हूँ मेन मुद्दा ही पॉलिटिकल है,
Hmm.
बच्चों का मुद्दा पॉलिटिकल है।
Hmm.
आई एम पुटिंग एन आर्ग्यूमेंट ऑन देयर बिहाफ,
You
तो
take a
उसमें
seriously.
फिर उसको धुंधला नहीं करना मुझे,
Yeah.
मेन मुद्दे को बोलो ना। मैंने ये मुद्दा उठाया, अभी ये मुद्दा मैं एक सिरे से बोल सकता,
Hmm.
ताकि वो अंदर तक चला जाए। जिस तरह ये मेरी 2-3 फिल्में लोगों को एक्चुअली सोचने पर मजबूर कर दिया, इतना इनफ है मेरे लिए।
Yeah. Uh, so, what films would you recommend where the director churned out the child's potential? Like there's this beautiful film, very old film called Cinema Paradiso. It's an Italian film.
I
So,
like cinema paradiso, but I would I love Pocket Money, Francois Truffaut. I like Red Balloon, it's a short film. There's so many films. I mean, I have a dabba of films, Majidi's dabba. So, Children of Heaven, Colors of Paradise, Baran, so many films. Majidi है, Kiarostami की film है. You know, Where's My Village? Uh, Where's My Friend's Village? Sorry. इतनी खूबसूरत फिल्में हैं for children, and how nicely they've been constructed. चाहे जापान हो, ओजू की फिल्में हैं, so many beautiful films, and the list is unending, you know. So I, right from, I would say, a very important film which never gets mentioned is the film that won the first President's Gold Medal in India, is Shamchi Ai. So Sham Chiayi is Acharya Atre's treatise, uh, and it talks about Sane Guruji and his childhood, how long he went on his feet to gain education as a poor child. So it's a story of Sane Guruji, uh, who's an educator of Western India, Maharashtra. Sham Chiayi is a beautiful film. There are so many films. There is, I mean, you see the cinema of Raja Paranspe. I'm talking about Maharashtra, Jagacha Party. There's so many beautiful films, and they are like Ghatak. They are like Suvarna Rekha, Meghe Raga Tara, Bari Theke Paliye. So all the films, all of it, right up to matlab whatever, Tatashik Nadir now. I'm a follower of Ritwik Ghatak, and I was so, uh, lucky that his niece, Mahashweta Devi, uh, her film, meaning Govindji's film, uh, based on her book, Hazar Chauraser Ma, Hazar Chaurasi Ki Ma, with Jaya Bachchan. So I made the graphics titles of that film. The opening titles of the film have my paintings as graphics for the titles. So I was so happy that, in a way, it was like a, connect with Ritik Da's brilliant kids. That is Mahashweta Devi, who I think also a writer of, my God, great intensity and density. My God. So, like, just as we were talking about Vijay Tendulkar and Munshi Premchand, such we have. That's why the earlier Hindi films were so good, is because we relied on our own literature. So he said, "नहीं, मुंशी प्रेमचंद जी की कथाओं पर आधारित." तो ये, I think somewhere we've lost that. I'm telling you, why does Lagan work for that matter? That's because KP Saxena wrote the. He gave the flavor to the film. That language, which is spoken with a lot of detail and labor by the actors in Lagan, but they don't move away from that, that scent. And in a broad spectrum Indian cinema, Lagan has a pride of a place, just like Mehboob Khan's Mother India. So these are important films, as you'd say. It's meant to educate us. I don't know. I find at a drop of a hat, 4 masterpieces come out. So I don't know where to begin and where to end in order to answer your questions. But there's a huge wish list that I have, which I don't know. I'll have to jog my memory. वो तुम्हारी बगल में ही जाने भी दो यार, वो बैठा हुआ है मेरे गुरुजी का पिक्चर. I spent about 2.5, 3 years with Kundan Shah as a, as a vagrant assistant on writing on Kabhi Haan Kabhi Na, Laveria, another film, 2 other projects that didn't take off. But Masterji taught me a lot of things in humility, and like Kundan Shah is like a Ozu film protagonist. The grace of the Gaud, the Gaud, the character, the teacher in Autumn Afternoon. For me, he reminds me of that character from Ozu's film. He reminds me of Pere Goriot, that is old Goriot, Father Goriot, from Honoré de Balzac's novel of the same name. The quirks of that man. He taught me how to use a A4 size paper from the extreme left of the paper right up to the extreme right of the lower end. fill up each page where it does not have place to breathe. That is maximizing a page. And with that, you're saving a tree somewhere. So that was beautiful. He used to take us to New Talkies, a theater in Bandra. And he used to, now Kundan Shah jaisa aadmi, after Nukkad and after achieving big peaks, तो सीधा नीचे के स्टॉल में बिठाता था साथ में. He'll say, क्या है ना अमोल, नीचे से भी वही फिल्म दिखती है, बैल्कनी से भी वही दिखती है, कोई 1 रुपया 10 पैसा वेस्ट करने का. बियर पीना है तो एक ईरानी है और सामने कैसबा है, 2 होटल है, उधर 3 रुपया ज्यादा है बियर का. बोले ये बियर तो सेम है ना, इधर क्या उधर क्या, इधर चलते ना, पैसा बचेगा. जहाँ टैक्सी से जा सकते हो वहां वो बस से जाता था, जहाँ बस से जा सकते हो वहां पैदल जाता था. ऐसा ही मेरा गुरु है. मैंने बहुत कुछ सीखा उनसे, in terms of simplicity in character. I pay, solid tribute to my master, Kundan Shah.
Yeah, in this conversation, you paid homage to many people, and that I think symbolizes वो एक जो गीत है हिंदी सिनेमा में कि जिंदगी एक प्यार का नगमा है, मौजों की रवानी है, जिंदगी कुछ भी नहीं तेरी मेरी कहानी है. I think we all are characters. These stories, I think, are the crux of our lives, and
No, absolutely.
nothing
And
wins but the
इसके
story.
अलावा क्या है?
Yeah.
तेरी मेरी कहानी के अलावा है कुछ
No.
तो मुझे दिखाओ. बड़ी बड़ी कोठियां बनाओ, उन कोठियों में रहो, और फिर एक दिन जाना है तो सब पीछे छोड़ के जाना पड़ता है. ओहदा, नाम सब पीछे छूटेगा. तो करंट में क्या है? तो आपका करंट बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. तो दैट इज वर्तमान. बाकी तो भूतकाल तो हो चुका, और आगे तो भविष्य जो होना है वो होगा, लेकिन वर्तमान क्या है? वर्तमान में आप प्रोसेस में हैं या नहीं, या वर्तमान आप फ्यूचर के लिए सिर्फ डिजाइन कर रहे हैं? वर्तमान में भविष्य क्यों? वर्तमान में वर्तमान. वो जिसे दादा कमल स्वरूप बोलते हैं, घूमते रहते हो हम दर बदर. ऐसा होता था कि मैं भी बहुत मुसाफिर आदमी हूँ, तो रात को लास्ट ट्रेन चर्चगेट से मैंने पकड़ी, सपोज 1:30 2 बजे, तो जा रहे हैं अकेले बोगी में बैठ के कंपार्टमेंट में, वो देख रहे हैं कोई स्टेशन पार कर लिया, सपोज माहिम पार कर लिया, या कुछ लोअर परेल पार कर लिया, वो देख रहे हैं कि वो एक बेंच पे जो है कमल स्वरूप बैठे अकेले रात के 2 बजे. फिर कहीं और देख रहे हैं वो चलते हुए कहीं जा रहे हैं. ऐसे he was omnipresent, for me. अभी भी तो उनकी जो तस्वीरें आप अगर देखते हो ना फेसबुक पे, जो रोज अपलोड करते रहते हैं, बहुत ही माहिर है. क्योंकि मतलब वो हर रोज हर दिन कितने सालों से घोड़े को जलेबी खिलाने ले जा रहे हैं. वो उनकी फिलॉसफी है.
Yeah. No, he does upload all the Ajib Garib photographs on his. Yeah.
Simple photographs of simple folk.
Yeah.
इसलिए मैंने घोड़े का जिक्र किया.
And his status on Facebook is always, philosophical in nature. Whenever we read.
बहुत मास्टर है भाई. मैं माथा टेकता हूँ उनके पैरों
Yeah.
तले. He's a very big man.
So if you have to ask one question to Kamal sir, because as I said, he's next after you in this series of conversations. If we have to ask one question to Kamal sir, what that should be?
What should it be? My God, it cannot be one question. उनको तो 12 घंटे आपको बात करनी पड़ेगी उनके साथ, क्योंकि वो भंडार है नॉलेज का. मतलब फ्रॉम मिथोलॉजी टू द स्क्रिप्चर्स to deep understanding and interpretation of scriptures and mythology. I have not met a person who can fascinate you with his spell. perhaps the only other person who comes very close to him in a true sense, much discovered, not not like my master Kamal Swarup, is Osho. तो उतनी घनी फिलोसफी और उतने कॉन्फिडेंस के साथ और स्पेल के साथ आपको जो मोहित कर दे, तो मेरे लिए तो एक लाइफ टाइम का एक मास्टर तो मुझे मिल गया. वो जेन मास्टर है मेरे लिए. ही इज माय मीनिंग. I just think about him and he is present in my head and heart. मास्टर कमल स्वरूप की करामती करतब जो है बहुत बड़े हैं, बहुत बड़े.
Yeah.
मतलब क्या है, वो निकल जाएगा, एक पूरा लाइफ टाइम निकल जाएगा वो उनकी बातें सुनने में. एंड ट्रूली वो कुछ गैदर नहीं किया, कुछ नहीं, साधु की तरह घूम रहे, कुछ नहीं है अपने पास, नथिंग यस. तो ऐसा मतलब इतना गुणी इंसान जिसने किसी भी चीज का फायदा ना उठाया हो, ये जानते हुए कि वो आइकॉनिक है, पर उसका उसका मूल्यांकन नहीं किया, क्विकली मोनेटाइजेशन नहीं किया. अभी जब सवाल करेंगे तो बोलेंगे भी कि नहीं मैं कर नहीं पाया, मेरे में था नहीं वो. पर वो आपकी इच्छा और आस्था है ना करना. यार जेब कतरा है तो कोई भी बन सकता है, कोई भी बन सकता है. तो यू नीड अ डीप feeling not to walk on that path and be a free soul. That's He's a free soul.
So,
मतलब है.
so if you have to explain his film, the most important of his, in the most famous of his films, filmography, Om Darbadar, which I think was not released until 2014. It released in 2014. It was shot in the 80s, but I don't know what happened. The censor board did not give them the
No, it's not
certificate.
just that. There's so many other things anyway. That's
Yeah,
that's the point. It's a cult film now.
yeah.
It's I think it's something which is the most unusual film uh, an Indian filmmaker has provided, you know, to its cinema enthusiasts. Yes. तो क्या कह रहे थे आप? मेरा इंटरप्रिटेशन.
Yeah, your how did you understand? Because I was listening to Irfan's गुफ्तगू के जो इरफान साहब है उनका conversation with कमल सरूफ. He said कि जब मैंने फिल्म बनाई थी मैं ये कहता था लोगों को, अगर आपको समझ आ जाए तो मैं पैसे वापस कर दूंगा.
हाँ, क्या बात है.
What's your understanding of Om Darbadar?
नहीं, मुझे पैसे वापस नहीं मिले. सही जवाब. और नाम लेना चाहता हूँ क्योंकि जिस दिन अपनी वोकेबलरी खत्म हो जाए, कंप्लीट हो जाए, सॉरी खत्म नहीं, उस दिन शायद सही लफ्ज मिलेंगे, सही शब्द मिलेंगे टू जस्ट डिस्क्राइब द एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ एंड द थ्रिल ऑफ वॉचिंग ओम दरबार. बिकॉज है ही नहीं वो शब्द ही नहीं. इट्स जस्ट अ फीलिंग अंदर से जो जागरूक होता है व्हेन यू सी समथिंग सो आइकॉनिक एंड सो ओहो. बाकी सबका डिस्क्रिप्शन, विवरण, उस पर टिप्पणी मैं कर सकता हूँ घोड़े तक. बट ये जो है ना, ये वाइट पिजन जो आपके दिल की फ्लाइट है, जो हेलीकॉप्टर में घुस नहीं पाई और जो हेलीकॉप्टर ने काट के उसके पंख बिखेर दिए, लाल खून के छींटों के साथ सफेद पंख, उसका बुक मार्क लेके घूम रहा हूं मैं भी. वही तो है. अब ये गूगली नहीं है, ये सत्य है. दैट्स द ट्रुथ. pravda.
Coming to Ritvik Ghatak and his film, which I think was the most defining in one era, Meghe Dhaka Tara. I think still it's not available widely on YouTube or others. I think it is available on Mubi and other very specialized streaming platforms. My generation doesn't know about Ghatak, as far as I know. A very limited chunk of my generation know about Ghatak. They know about Satyajit Ray. So
Yes, I
Ghatak,
understand.
I think, remains unsung to a majority of cinema viewers and people. So how do you explain Meghe Dhaka Tara, which symbolizes the pain of partition, the anguish, the agony of the divide?
Meghe Dhaga Tara, uh, uh, not so much Meghe Dhaga Tara, but Suvarna Rekha, which uh, showcases partition agony. Meghe Dhaga Tara is, for me, it's the most supreme film which celebrates sacrifice. So Supriya Devi, who played the elder sister, and the father who's erudite but poor. You know, there's a poor father in Diwar also, A.K. Hangal, who's a teacher, जिसका बेटा डबल रोटी चोरी करते हुए शशि कपूर shoots him. And when he comes to know the truth, who he has shot and what is the condition of this municipal school teacher, ex-teacher, so it becomes the fulcrum of Diwar because he accepts the case against his own brother, who's a criminal. But Yaha, there is no such thing. Yaha, there is erudition. So when he's reciting from Keats, the father, to his daughter, Supriya Devi, and who's actually bearing the burden of the entire family and the indulgent needs of younger brother and younger sister, who's saucy enough to steer away her elder sister's engaged boyfriend, and she marries him. So where there is nothing left for her, and she's feeding her other younger brothers, not younger brother, he's the older brother, and he's a classical singer. But because he should not pollute his art, she supports him uh, to the hilt, which is supreme sacrifice from her side to her mother, to her elder brother, and Anil Chatterjee, who plays the elder brother. So he understands his younger sisters. Pure exploitation, actually. There's never a moment. I must have seen that film about 40, 50 times. I don't know how many times, 100 times. But you know the purity of that moment. It's not design, it's not art, it's not advertising. So when he understands his sister and she is in the terminal time, in a tuberculosis, and her plea at the end of so much sacrifices, I want to live. So it is not about partition. It's about the frailty and the exploitation of a human being. And Ghatak is like a magician, a jadugar. He just waves his wand and whips you at will in every film of his. You know, you see Bari Theke Paliye, you have a young Keshto Mukherjee, you know, the comedian who later made his mark in Hindi films. So he's a poor man in a. Now that is a film about partition. It's about one big koti owner family who can't afford anymore and they just kind of get lower and lower in depravity. So at one mid stage where they are living in a chawl of other depraved people, deprived people. So. And Keshtu Mukherjee has a thaili always in his hand. and he comes about 4 5 times or 2 or 3 times in that episode where they are in that chawl, and all he's doing is he's trying to extract a rupee or 50 naya paise. He says, oh, उधर का स्ट्रीट में आलू बहुत सस्ता बिक रहा है, सोचा मैं 1 2 किलो फैमिली के लिए खरीदूं, उधर कांदा बिक रहा है, ऐसा करके वो he is just wanting to get some resource which he doesn't have in order to buy bare necessities of food. And you know that it's not a petra, it's not a gimmick. When the filmmakers, or you see Ajantric, his first film, I mean, it's so moving, you know, he's been blessed with that vision, which very few filmmakers have that pure soul. I mean, I do find some of that in Marathi cinema of Raja Paranjpe, as I was saying. There are makers who can move you to tears without it being a gimmick or without having an extra frame, an extended frame of that scene playing out for you. So that is like pure ghee, a drop of pure emotion, pure emotion. वो कहाँ मिलता है? तो वो ऋत्विक दा तो दे के गए, अपना लाइफ जला के दे के गए और काफी कुछ दिया. अब डिस्कवर होंगे, अभी वैन गॉग डिस्कवर हुआ है ना, आप तो जानते हो विंसेंट वैन गॉग को, आपके फ्रेंड भी जानते हैं ये नाम. तो एक दिन ऋत्विक घटक भी एक ऐसे ही नाम होगा, बिकॉज वो डिस्कवर तो होना है, बिकॉज इट इज द इमोशन इज सो प्योर. यू लुक एट सुवर्ण रेखा, I mean, what it's an intellectual masterpiece. It's not simple, you know. So when somebody is shouting out Nachiketa was a fool, what is he meaning? What is this filmmaker talking? You have to understand your mythologies. You have to understand your home stories, your region stories, your political truths, everything. As a film buff, of course, it goes beyond children's cinema, my interest, of course. But Ritwik Ghatak is the god I pray to. I do.
And there's this allegory of train in his film and even in Satyajit Ray's film. And there is this scene where there's this man sitting in a field and there's this train coming in Meghe Dhakatara itself.
नहीं, but अभी अगर हिस्टोरिकल बनाते तो घोड़ा गाड़ी होती, रथ होते. इंसान को पैदल चलता हुआ कितना दिखाओगे? तो this is a geographical truth of our nation, no? The Indian Railway. There's romance with it. To present it in a frame, in a black and white frame, that too, both Rai and Ghatak, it excites you. How to integrate it, you know, the train. Because there was a romance till a point with the coal engine and the juk 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 of it, and Ashok Kumar's Hindi song Rail Gadi. So many things. The rail is कितने सारे देवानंद के गाने रेलवे कंपार्टमेंट में है. लड़की को रिझा रहा है, छेड़ रहा है, जो भी है. कितने शम्मी कपूर के गाने, सबके. You cannot take the railway out of Indian art.
Yeah.
कितने तो postage stamps बने होंगे.
Yes.
रेलवे के, है ना? So it's romantic. It's really romantic. To place your camera in such a location where you have the lehlahate khet of East Bengal and West Bengal, and you have a chugging coal train pass by in the background. It's a painting. Why look for Lautrec or look for the Impressionists This is an impressionist painting by Rai and Ghatak. सौरा के पीछे कहाँ पड़ेगा? इधर है अपना impression हम दे रहे हैं दुनिया को. What is impressionism? It's your view. It's your impression. मतलब your expression.
Yeah. And if you have to choose a film to explain it to a group of young people, old people mixed together, which film would
How
that?
young? How young? I do.
My generation, the
No,
youth.
I do master class. I have done master classes,
Yeah.
and it still continues to haunt me. Two films, which I first saw, then professed, and then practiced. That same art form is Kiarostami's Close Up. Very important. It freed me. If you see Close Up, you don't know what is docu, what is fiction. I employed the same valuation to Stanley Ka Dabba. After bringing Close Up to students, wherever I did classes and master classes. That's one film, and very deep inside me. And the other is Inarritu's Amores Perros. Because that too is so dauntingly close to the camera and brutal. It's really brutal. I'm talking about these two foreign films. Huh? I mean, otherwise, I would be carrying, like how you carry the Lord on your head in a yatra. I would be carrying Ritvik Ghatak and Meghe Dhakatara and Subarna Rekha and Santa Tukaram and Pathir Panchali and Do Bigha Zameen. 10 मतलब दशा अवतार तो इधर ही बनते हैं भारत में to carry to the students of cinema.
Can
But
you name those 10 Dashavatars?
well, I began with Sant Tukaram, 1935. Then I would say Pathir Panchali, Pyasa, because it came in that same period. Meghe Dhakatara, Jagaच्या पाठीवर, दो बिघा जमीन, and Bandini Sujata and the entire plethora of Bimal Roy's cinema. 15 हो गए मेरे ख्याल से.
I think along with
जाने भी लो यारो भाई, ये तुम्हारी बगल में बैठा है. Evergreen.
Yeah, no, I
Om
think
Darmadar, of course.
sorry,
Om
uh,
Darmadar.
Om Darmadar, Kamal Swaroop, yes. But I think we have to explore Vimal Roy also, beyond Madhumati, because
No,
he,
Madhumati is written by Ritvik Ghatak, if you don't know.
yeah.
So Madhumati is a, a treatise to Hindi cinema, employing the best of Bengali minds. Salil Chaudhary, I think written by Shailendra, the songs, and everybody else.
Cinematography by Ghatak himself.
Not cinematography.
I'll have to check.
Writing. He
Right.
wrote, that's his story. He's credited with the story, Ritvik Ghatak. He was in deep trouble. He had no money. He was, there are so many things that equate Ritvik Ghatak to Kamal Swaroop. I can't stop marveling at that arc, the life arc, forget story arc of these two great men. I fall short of words, because what all, where all, which all, we have a huge Ghatak followers club group when I grew up at FTI, so Amitabh Chakravarti, Omresh Chakravarti, so many. And I remember the first time, and I must have been a 20-year-old boy or 19-year-old boy, and there was an iconic man on campus, a student, Sri Anil Srivastav. He had already finished his LLM, his law, and all from Lucknow. And then he came to become a student. Like how Saeed also came late. After fathering two children, he came to FTI. Kundan also came after marriage to FTI. So also this person. So when Vastavji, and of course he was a bachelor till he died. He died quite young, 63, of a heart attack some time back. But he was on campus all the time as a teacher later. So this man who smoked his cigarette like the villagers, holding it between his, जैसे कुछ करते थे वो. अमोल, आज कहर होने वाला है. तो वास्तव जी क्या क्या कहर. आज मेघे ढाका चलने वाली है मेन थिएटर में. हम लोग विजडम ट्री पे बैठे. आज जो चलेगी ना गोली, मेरा दावा है तुम आधा घंटा बात नहीं कर पाओगे फिल्म के बाद. वो फिल्म तो देख ली, मतलब जो हाल हुआ है उस फर्स्ट स्क्रीनिंग में मेघे ढाका तारा की. 1 घंटा क्या, मैं 2 दिन बात नहीं कर. बात करो तो आंसू निकलते, एक शब्द बोल नहीं पाते. वो जादू ऑफ सिनेमा तब समझ में आया कि ये तो एट विल, ये मैजिशियन जो है आपको कोड़े लगा रहा है और यू आर रिदिंग इन पेन, स्वीट पेन, स्वीट एंग्विश. तो इनका क्या, कौन सी चाबी है इनके पास. बहुत साल लगे ये समझने में कि उस चाबी का नाम था सच, सत्य, ट्रूथ, प्रावडा. तो ये चाबी लेके जब चलोगे तो आप गदर मचाते आगे बढ़ोगे. सच की चाबी. तो चाहे वो सुवर्ण रेखा हो, मेघे ढाका तारा हो, अजांत्रिक हो, तुम हर फिल्म की बात करो, जुगतू तक्को और गप्पो, एवरी फिल्म ऑफ ऋत्विक घटक, it has the scent of truth and it can emotionally crush you because truth normally does that. तो इससे बड़ी बात तो मैं कुछ बोल नहीं सकता मेरे भाई, मुझे छोड़ देना.
We are coming to the end of the conversation. Already we have discussed a lot of films, and I think the final two questions, if you allow. One is, what do you see the importance of preserving films and importance of film archiving in India, in the world in general?
ये तो ऐसे हो गया कि किसी ने ट्रेजर निकाला और फिर आपने पानी में डाला. क्या फायदा हुआ. मछलियां चाटेंगी नीचे. अपने काम का हो. आर्काइविंग इज मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट. लाइब्रेरीज आर मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट. तो अगर सिनेमा की लाइब्रेरी नहीं होगी तो कैसे. अभी एक जमाने में वो जो दूरदर्शन हुआ करता था, बॉम्बे टीवी, तो उसकी वजह से तो सारे जो पास्ट मास्टरपीसेस थे वो बाय डिफॉल्ट, मेरी तो उम्र होगी 6, 7, 8 साल की उम्र, तो सिर्फ सिनेमा नहीं, फिर बड़े बड़े गवैये, ऑल द पंडित्स, ऑल द उस्ताद्स, उनके सैटरडे प्रोग्राम्स, लंबे लंबे 2-2.5 घंटे का प्रोग्राम चलता था टीवी पे. तो ये एनरिचमेंट जो है, अगर आप संस्कृति की बात करते तो ये एनरिचमेंट कहीं से तो आनी चाहिए, उसको बढ़ावा मिलना चाहिए. It should be accessible to students and no student should be able to say, यार you are an old foggy, ये छोड़, अभी नया जमाना आ गया है. लेकिन आप डायरेक्ट 10th स्टैंडर्ड में एंट्री नहीं ले सकते. उसके लिए आपको हिस्ट्री पूरी सीखनी पड़ेगी, समझना पड़ेगा, तो जाके तुम अपना एक नया, to give you an example of Pablo Picasso, the painter. Do you know what an accomplished realistic painter he was? He was accomplished to the T. And after being accomplished in standard, you know, picture perfect art, he could step out and break all the rules. But if somebody breaks all the rules without being aware of the classical, then to me, he is Kolhapur airport is the biggest airport in the world. You can't run away from that. So you have to enrich yourself with the art of that land, the culture of that land, the nuances of our lives, including our foods. That's also artful. Everything is artful. तो अगर वो अगर जानेंगे ही नहीं तो सिनेमा वैसे क्या है मेरे भाई? इट्स अ कढ़ाई. उसमें नाट्य शास्त्र है, कला है, सब कुछ तो है. इधर उधर से सब. It's a mission of 5,000 years of art form. It's practiced in the world like that. अभी इधर थोड़े से अनपढ़ लोग कुछ अगर कर ही देते तो हमको फॉरगिव करना चाहिए कि anyway it doesn't qualify for cinema. तो where is the argument? हम उस लाइब्रेरी की बात कर रहे हैं, उस आर्काइव की बात कर रहे हैं जहाँ जो 100 साल से ज्यादा जो टिकता है वो वैल्यूएबल आए जाए. तो फ्लेवर्स तो है. अभी एक अंतिम बात बताना चाहूंगा. 1957 गुरदत्त की प्यासा रिलीज हुई. उस साल में कितनी सारी फिल्में बहुत सारा पैसा कमा लिया होगा. कमर्शियल फिल्म्स एम ऐसी, नो प्लॉट्स नथिंग, बस एंटरटेनमेंट 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 एंटरटेनमेंट. साउंड लाइक कोई एम्प्टी टिन में पत्थर डालो और उनको हिलाओ, वो आता है. एंटरटेनमेंट 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 एंटरटेनमेंट. हैविंग सेड दैट, बहुत सारे ऐसे एंटरटेनमेंट एंटरटेनमेंट आके गए होंगे 57 में, 1957 में. हमको प्यासा ही क्यों याद है एज फिल्म लवर्स? बिकॉज वी डोंट केयर फॉर द रेस्ट. वो आया गया, फ्लेवर ऑफ द मंथ था. किसी ने बहुत सारा पैसा बनाया उस भद्दे मजाक के साथ. उसका उसकी बड़ी कोठियां बनी उस मजाक का, क्योंकि पैसा बहुत आया. फिर उनके जो पोते सरपोतों ने वो कोठियां बेच दी और चले गए अपने अपने घर. कोठी भी नहीं रही, लाइब्रेरी में सिनेमा भी नहीं रहा. तो आपने क्या खाक किया, है ना? ये सच. तो मेरे हिसाब से अगर मैं कुछ करता हूँ तो मेरा कोई क्लेम नहीं है, दावा नहीं है कि बहुत ग्रेट कुछ कर रहा हूँ, पर ट्रुथफुली कर रहा हूँ. अपने मास्टरों को मद्देनजर रख के कर रहा हूँ और अपने दिल से कर रहा हूँ. इससे ज्यादा खुशी मुझे चाहिए नहीं जिंदगी में, है ना? सईद साहब ने जैसे बताया था उनके बेटे का या पोते का फोटो या उसे ड्राइंग किया हुआ, ये मेरे पीछे मेरे दो ड्राइंग.
And so अच्छा, these are painted by you, these are done by you.
Yeah, there's a lot of work. आप फेसबुक पे नहीं है क्या?
No, I'll send you a friend request.
Please do, or I'll send you one. Because देखिए, क्योंकि I have put a lot of my drawings and things on my. I have only friends on Facebook. I don't have followers.
Yeah, so now I think I'll consider me as your friend.
Yes, of
So,
course you are. What do you mean? I'm your friend, of course. And but I'm not on Twitter, nothing. No
yeah.
tweeting, nothing. This is only meant Facebook because it has helped me connect with my school friends, my college friends, and it's helped me a lot in terms of keeping everything. Yeah, remembering people's birthdays. Sometimes wishing them on Facebook. Most of the times calling them up and wishing them, and all that. पर आइए, जुड़ जाइए, उसमें है. There are a lot of drawings, some brochures of my paintings, and shows and things are there.
Sure.
You're free to, as a friend, you can download them and use them. There's no need to worry. They belong to me.
Sure, sir. Now the final question. If you would like to speak about your experience being on Caravan and how was this interview, And if you want to say anything about the cinema archives that we are curating.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. एक तो मतलब ईशान नाम रख के तुम्हारे माँ बाप ने मेरे पे बहुत बड़ी मेहरबानी की है. हालांकि you precede the film. Your birth precedes the birth of Taare Zameen Par. You must be naturally born before 2006. तो maybe पता नहीं क्या ऐसा था कि तुम्हारा नाम भी मतलब ईशान और मेरा ईशान अच्छा bond है. It's a first friendship is basis that name. But the second friendship, which is much bigger than the first friendship, is basis your brightness and your need to do service to cinema. You know, how many 22-year-olds can I find on this side of the earth who, with such clear eyes, speak with so much passion about cinema and go for the jugular instead of uh, flitting on the surface. So you're doing a great service to cinema, Ishan, and film Karwa. And कारवां मतलब चलता गया, मतलब लोग है ना, कारवां बढ़ता गया. व्हाट इज इट? हम तो चले थे अकेले, लोग जुड़ते गए, कारवां बनता गया. इसी है कुछ. It's a beautiful thing you're doing, and more power to you and your associates and everybody who's connected with Karwa. It was a supreme pleasure, and I would imagine that after this, I have nothing more to say in life. I'll just make films, I guess, but nothing more to say, and therefore, I feel quite satisfied and not fatigued by the conversation. Normally, fatigue sets in very fast when standard stuff happens, you know. And I am not a person who repeats, and which is why whenever there's a film to release, I get screwed. How? Because there are journalists, which the media company, which is my producer's media company, lines up one after the other. Each person has the same question to ask, list of 10 questions. And I hate to repeat myself. Then it's like a parrot. I can't parrot. So I have to create a new sentence. Because for me, that's as much matter of interest and challenge than just to make do and just go ahead with it. नहीं तो वो था, हाँ जब हम लोग फर्स्ट टाइम शूटिंग में गए थे तो फिर ये ऐसे हुआ था, फिर ये हुआ, कोई ऐसे कोई वाकई है, हाँ वो क्या हुआ, एक बार मैं कुर्सी पे बैठा था, ये सब वो इतना स्टैंडर्डाइज्ड है, तुम चाहे जिधर भी जाके झांक के देखो वही चलता है. मैं वो नहीं कर सकता. ये क्या कह रहा है, यू हैव अ न्यू मेमोरी, ये क्या है?
That must be so bad. But thank you so much, sir, for being part, and I look forward to seeing you whenever I'm in Bombay, hopefully this
Yes,
year.
yes.
And
And Ishan Sharma, ESHAN SHARMA. I'll send you a friend request now. I
sure.
don't know whether you will be allowed in, because it must be, maybe. Then you try first, then I'll try.
Yeah, I'll update on WhatsApp. Thank you so much, sir, and I look forward to speaking
I'll
more.
send you that film also, milestone.
Sure.
Tomorrow, day after, yeah.
I'll just stop the recording also.
Absolutely.